Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage.
Welcome to Lawyer Boss Life, the podcast where law firm owners learn to build profitable law firms and lead lives they love. I'm Alay, founder of Law Firm Success Group and Law Firm Growth Expert. I've helped hundreds of attorneys scale their firms, gain freedom, and take back their time.
And I'm Chelsea Pagan, a law firm owner, entrepreneur, and toddler mom. I know it's possible to have an excellent income, work 40 hours a week or less, and still take time off because that's what I do.
Don't wince, but today we're talking about, yes, AI, specifically what small law firms can expect that actually works as we move into 2026. There is a ton of hype out there. There's a lot of fear, some panic. Other people just can't wait to get this thing going. I mean, there's a lot of things that are out there, a lot of tools that promise all sorts of things, and a lot of people who are terrified for their jobs. So in this episode, we're really breaking down, what's practical, what's going to work in the short term, and what's worth really focusing on in the year ahead. So Chelsea, as a managing partner of your firm, how do you view AI and the tools that are available to you today?
Yeah, I think there's so many ways in which AI can help make you more efficient, keep you organized and on task, and help automate a couple processes. What I have not yet found is actually helpful to doing the job is a lot of the AI researching platforms or drafting platforms where you put all this information, it drafts something back to you. At least in the area of law I practice or the way that I practice, I've not found that it does it right. I find that I end up doing double the work. It's inconsistent, unreliable. I get that it could work for some people in some industries, but I just don't find that that's actually benefiting my time as a firm or how it helps my clients and their cases move forward quickly. But what does help are all the things that help me be more responsive, keep my calendar more organized, um, you know, brainstorm ways in which to respond and deal with things that are supplements, but not replacements.
How do you use AI on like a daily to weekly basis? Is there specific AI platforms that you like and use or things you're playing with?
Yeah, there's really three main platforms that I use on a regular basis. One, I use Fixer AI. It manages my inbox and my email. It sorts through marketing emails or anything like that automatically. It sorts through scheduling, adds stuff to my calendar automatically that's scheduled via email, and it prompts draft responses to a lot of things and just says response pending. And so when I can't necessarily respond to a client right away, it at least has a prompt of a drafted response that says, hey, received this. I'll get back to you in a couple days. And I can go in and kind of edit it to what it needs to be, but it's there in my face, making sure that I deal with it.
Yeah.
And then I can send it along. So I love that it doesn't auto send it because obviously I'm a lawyer and I have to make sure that everything's cohesive, but it keeps me on track, gets the responses ready to go. So I love Fixer AI. I've had a really good experience, but I also made sure I knew how to use it right so that it was helpful and not distracting. The
How much time did it take you to learn how to use the tool and like how much investment time did you have to put in before you got the payoff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably spent about an hour or two setting it up, going through it, creating rules that made sense for me, color coding it. So probably like an hour or two on a weekend. But now it's just set it and forget it. I don't have to worry about it.
That
So
is not bad.
no, and it
Um,
saves me hours a week.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out because
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a control freak, like maybe a couple of attorneys who are listening are.
Yeah.
Um, and I've really been pushing back on those autoresponders and auto adds to
Mhm,
calendars and
mhm.
auto all of that. But it sounds like it's a really cool tool. Do you think that at this point AI is still optional for small law firms, or is that becoming mandatory? What's your take?
I think if you're not using it, you're not willing to learn it. It's not because it's not going to be helpful. So I don't think it's optional, but I don't think you have to use it in all the places. So Fixer AI is definitely optional. That's just personal preference. My business partner tried it. I don't know that she liked it that much for some of the reasons you were saying. But you have to think about the team you're creating and the narrative and the tools you have. So, you know, where you're wasting your time and where you can fix the way in which you're doing things. So there's two other ways in which I think are just you have to know how to use them. ChatGPT, I get it. People say it all the time. It's annoying. It's like a trigger word for a lot of people. But even me, sometimes I use it just to check my tone because I work in an emotional field and I get frustrated with clients. I get frustrated with other attorneys. And I just need somebody else to kind of take what I've just said and tone it down or reframe it. And I'll put it in there, it'll redraft it back, and then I'll kind of take it and make sure it still is my voice. But it just takes that stress of saying, like, I need to get my frustration out. How can I tone it down? Encouraging clients to use it when they're speaking to their co-parents in family law is also another tool. But then another example where it's much less emotional and brainstorming, but Clio, who I've spoken about Clio client management software many times. They now have an AI based time tracking tool where you connect your email, you connect your OneDrive, and it'll auto create billable entries for all the work you're doing in the background using AI. And it'll draft your time slip, all of these different things. To not use that as an attorney where time tracking can take up so much of your time just seems like such a wasted opportunity. Yes, you have to go in and still review it and fix it up, but I am saving time. I'm also capturing time that maybe I forgot about. So that's why I say it's mandatory, because if you're not, you're leaving money and time on the table. And it's just not efficient for most practices.
Yeah, right now it's probably not mandatory in my from my perspective, but if you're not playing with it and trying to figure out how it can help you in your firm,
Mhm.
you are losing ground. You're losing ground to the competition because
Yeah,
this is something that you're going to have to learn to use. You can't just wait for the technology to be ready and just
yeah,
expect to jump in and get up to speed right away. The people that start early are going to have an advantage over the firms that are coming in later to the party. So that's one competitive risk you run by not getting into AI, at least a little bit right now. The other thing is, like you said, Chelsea, there's opportunities to increase your revenue today, and there's
mhm,
opportunities to reduce your costs and save yourself time today. And that, if you're not doing that, then I think you're leaving some low hanging fruit potentially on the table in terms of firm profits. So it's quickly ramping up,
yeah.
but the big issue where I think a lot of us have um, some concern about is you've got this promise of AI, and take the trust in the state's attorney thing. There's an intake questionnaire. It's completed. We should be able to take that intake questionnaire, and AI should be able to put that into a draft, estate plan.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the expectation. But the reality is that there's a lot more to it than that. And the AI software may not be ready to do that just yet. And plus, there's this whole security issue, which we're not even going to get into. But there's this idea of the promise of AI, like it should be able to do all of this work, and the reality, which is it can suggest some email responses, and add some entries to your
Yeah.
calendar. And I think that makes people um, really annoyed when they start talking about AI. And so that's why I think it's important to think about, use cases. And in terms of the family law work that you do, how do you see AI coming in and actually helping with the substantive work right now? Or are we just way too far away to even get into that?
I think that there are opportunities for it to help with substantive work as far as creating templates and filling out some of the baseline forms, like a petition for dissolution in the state of California is data driven. So as long as you have a list of all the data and it can read the form, it's going to just put the data in, right? So that is something very easy that AI could do and save time and make it more cost effective for clients and allow us to get some of this stuff out of the way. Now, an attorney still needs to look over it, make sure the client gets it for review and approval. So there's still involvement there, but it's cutting down time. From when it comes to drafting declarations that have to be filed for motions, which are, essentially client statements, points and authorities, those are two areas in which we've at least right now, have so many problems. And there is just, it's so evident when somebody uses AI to respond to an email or
Mhm.
draft it. It doesn't fit the right emotion. You're missing the context, you're missing the storytelling. And so I think that there are some areas, but there's still a lot of gaps in the way that I think should not change. At least for the legal fields. I know that there's a lot of other industries where bringing in AI to do substantive work is actually going to help them create more output, not necessarily replace jobs, but help them help more people, right? That's what proponents of AI are saying. It increases production. So I'm standoffish on a substantive point of view for completing forms that are data driven, financial forms where you're just filling stuff out and it's going into a box. There's a lot of really great opportunities for AI to make it more cost effective for clients and help us help more people. So it's finding the right balance though.
It is. It is. Just out of curiosity, Chelsea, I know there's some financial aspects to the work that you do.
Mhm.
Have you gotten AI to do some of the math for you?
I have at times, but I will manually check it every time still. So there will be some calculations. I'll use an example. We're kind of in Silicon Valley, so lots of people have restricted stock units. And there's a calculation in family law that we have to use to figure out what the community and separate property interest is. I can upload or, take the data points that we've pulled out and upload them into like ChatGPT or something like that and say, calculate it for me. And then I'll manually check it myself. And generally it's been pretty accurate, but there's been times where depending on what you're putting in and how it's reading it, I'm not willing to replace that just yet, but I have used it or to try to figure out certain points, especially when it comes to financials, to help accelerate it or even double check my work. Sometimes I'll say, hey, here's the data, here's what I got, and double check it. And that kind of can help give you some reassurance. But yeah, that's a place where I do think there is a bigger opportunity to utilize it because math is math and numbers are numbers, but you also have to be the person putting in the information and telling it what to do correctly to get the number that you need.
Yeah, and depending who you talk to, they all have a different perspective of AI. But someone was telling me the other day, it's like a child, and if it misbehaves, you have to tell it, like,
Mhm.
you're doing this wrong. You've got to go back to doing it this way. So it's interesting how it doesn't always do what you ask it to do. But there are some areas where I've been really pleasantly surprised
Mm.
that can, I think, benefit a lot of law firm owners. The first thing is, and this is going to be a common theme, a lot of the non-legal stuff, the general small business operating stuff, are things that AI actually does pretty well. So if you wanted to create a procedure for you, for example, how to onboard an employee, or going back to the last episode we recorded, give me a client intake process, for my small law firm, those kinds of things, the general business stuff,
Mhm.
it actually produces some pretty good stuff. Now, I do G Suite, so I'm on Gemini, and that's pretty much the only one I've used. But the results I get are fantastic to the point where I can take it, copy it, paste it in. It's a great first draft. You're talking like 80% to completion. And I'm someone who has seen a lot of these business systems and helped create them. It's very, very good at that. That is one area. So if you're looking at just general policies like time off policies or things like that, it's pretty good at creating that stuff. The other thing I found it to be really good at is marketing content. So if you're thinking about, this is where you're thinking about, what do I say? What do I write? It's really good at that. It's so good to the point that I had, probably 10 years ago now, created something that helps my clients come up with ideas to write blogs and ideas to, talk about on podcasts and things like that. It's a very specific set of questions, and the output was pretty darn good. Well, AI can reproduce most of that, and give ideas now for content. And now it can even write the content and write it reasonably well. Again, a pretty good first draft. And so I think all those content creators on the marketing side are now finding that AI is a really powerful supplement and possibly a replacement to some of the work that they're doing. Have you seen that, Chelsea, in marketing and other areas, non-legal areas?
Oh, yeah, and that's where I use it probably the most. So, I'll give a recent example. We do, our employee reviews at the end of the year. We talk about goals for next year, pay increases. And I hated our like review form that we use. And so I went into ChatGPT and I said, "Hey, we need a review form. We're a law firm." I listed all the different roles we had because I wanted them customized for the different roles. I listed, things that we value, things that are important, all the things we wanted to assess. I said, ask me more questions to help you develop a review sheet. It asked me a bunch of questions. I answered those questions. It said, how do you want it formatted? Answered those, uploaded our logo. And now I have a completely revamped Google Sheet that is based on our specific firm needs. So I just did that like 3 weeks ago and I loved it. It took me a little while to really craft it, but it was still 10 times faster than if I manually created it. And I use it for social media a lot. I use it for LinkedIn posts. I give it information. I say, hey, I need 20 LinkedIn posts about following topics. And then I go in and customize it with my voice, because if I write something that's just copied and paste from ChatGPT, which my ChatGPT knows me now, so it's starting to sound like me a little bit more than it did at the beginning, because that's part of what the AI is supposed to do. But it's still not me. I talk a little bit casually sometimes. So if I look too formal or the language is just too flowery, that's not me. So I can kind of craft it. But at least once I do that, I can say, put it in a spreadsheet and send it to me. And it sends it to me and I copy and paste it in. So I use that way all the time. Internal related things for sure is the best way, because you can tweak it along your way. So I love those suggestions, and just start playing with it really. Try one Instagram post, one LinkedIn post, one blog post, and see what you get, knowing that you might need to obviously review, but you get a jump start on all of these things. So that's how I like it.
Yeah, and there's it's really tempting to take that and delegate it to someone in your firm. But this is one of those things where you kind of need to wrap your arms around it, play
Mhm.
with it for a bit, like you're saying, Chelsea, and really get it so you kind of understand how this thing works too. Because one thing I've noticed, and Chelsea, I'd love to get your take on this, it is getting way, way better. I mean,
Mhm.
month by month, it is improving. And so this is something that's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get better at what it does. So may as well embrace it, right? It's a trend that's going to be here.
Yeah, and I'll give an example of prior to 2020, my firm was really building remote and paperless access. So we had iPads that were our files versus paper files. We weren't necessarily going in the office every day. We were utilizing Zoom. So when the pandemic hit, that wasn't a problem for us. Like, we were ready to go. We weren't stressed about it. We knew that the court had to catch up, but our firm was business as usual. Not because I anticipated that. We just understood that all this was available. So I think AI is very similar in the sense that it's available, it's getting better. Keeping an eye on how it can benefit you in the future and ways to use it is only going to help your office prepare. And that can be in all sorts of ways. Um, I mentioned that my chat GPT knows me now, right? And starts to respond
Yeah.
to me. But I'll even say, about Fixer AI. Fixer AI also learns, your style. It learns your cases. So if I'm in one email thread involving a client with a certain email address and it asked a question, it searches your emails for conversations you've had and inputs responses based on that information. And I've been noticing that a lot more, like, wait, we're not even talking about that, but it remembered that we talked about that in another email thread. And so this is the last couple months where I'm going,
That's just
oh,
creepy.
it's super creepy. There was a response and I was like, oh, that's spot on. Like, it didn't sound like me per se. But it was spot on in what we were just talking about. And so I was able to go in and revise it slightly, but it was ready to go. So these things are happening. It is available. And I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, is it's finding the way that it actually helps you do your job, makes you more efficient, helps you streamline protocols, automation, create spreadsheets, cuts down on a lot of time where, it wouldn't necessarily translate into revenue, right? Building that review sheet didn't help translate into revenue. I just wanted a new review sheet, and I didn't want somebody on my team to spend 2 hours doing it, and I didn't want to do it. So you have to, I think, be willing to embrace that there's available options out there that people are going to come to expect, right? They're going to expect things to be faster in certain way. But I don't think you have to be in a place where you're using every available AI tool. But it's coming, and what the next round of 2026 and 2027 AI involvement in the legal field looks like, we still don't 100% know. But I know that I'm prepared, that when a new thing comes out, I'm capable of learning it because I've already been using it.
Yeah. If I could give anyone parting, words about AI right now as an attorney, is just relax.
Yeah.
Play with it a little bit. There's things it does really, really well. A lot of what you want it to do is going to be way out of scope for AI these days, but there's a lot of really smart people working to make all of this stuff happen. And that once they get it working, they'll certainly be knocking on your door to tell you all about their cool solutions.
Mhm.
So relax, play with it a little bit, figure out what it does well for you, and leave the heavy lifting to other folks. And for help identifying AI tools that kind of actually support your workflow as you're moving into 2026, we work with a lot of AI vendors. You can book a strategy call on our website at lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. And if this episode sparks some new ideas, please like, subscribe, and share it with a lawyer who might need it. We love hearing how you're building your lawyer boss life. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.